So on this day, we started with making the dye first. Usually, from the videos that I've posted, you've seen we always start with the batik stamping, like stamping a plain white cloth. However, on this day, we started with making the dye first because of the technique that we would be using to make the base of the cloth, and the technique is marbling. I've spoken about this extensively already, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more. So this is how we started. We had a piece of cloth. This was a yard, maybe two, but I think it was a yard of cloth. We at first we wet the cloth, not at first. We wet the cloth first, and as you can see here, we're just manipulating the cloth because manipulating the cloth in this way would determine how we dye the cloth, or just how we not how we pour the dye, but how the dye settles in the cloth after we pour it. And here I am just asking questions because you know me, I'm a curious cat. And honestly, I like to learn. I love to learn. So I'm always like, inquisitive. Just how do we do this? How do we do that? If we do this, what happens? So I wanted to marble the base of the cloth with orange and yellow. And as you saw earlier, we're making the dyes. We started off with the orange, went ahead and poured the cloth haphazardly. Honestly, there's no pattern. You just kind of pour it, you know. We just pour it in like some sort of pattern, but it doesn't matter because the cloth is going to come out however it comes out. But the goal is to try to get both colors like in between one another. And you see when we start pouring the second color, and it actually looks like the orange and the yellow just looked very similar. And that is because, well, obviously, the dyes look similar in color, so it's a little bit hard to distinguish if you're not paying attention. But yeah, here I am, and this is my second time doing this technique, actually my third time doing this technique. So I was a little bit familiar, and I love it because of just how unpredictable it is. Like, we don't know how it's gonna come out, but we just know it's gonna come out pretty nice. So here I am pouring away, and then I am switching colors to, again, that was probably the yellow, but I don't really know. But I think, yeah, that was probably the yellow, and this is the orange. So as you can see, I'm pouring the orange in between where I poured the yellow color, and you really just pour generously. There's no trying to be stingy. So here I am again pouring away. And this particular technique, you could actually use this technique to dye your t-shirts or any clothing item that you want to change or repurpose. You could go right ahead and use this technique. And this is why I love batik, is that the techniques that you learn in the process, you could use it to repurpose your clothing. So yeah, I was done, and then let the cloth kind of sit in and take on the dye, and then we let it dry. And then once the cloth was done drying, we moved on to the next step, which was stamping. So again, the marbling was the base of the cloth, and then I wanted to batik it and then dye it to get a cool design. So here I had already picked the stamp earlier, and then I went right ahead and stamped it. The stamping was challenging because I had to make sure that I was stamping, not only I spoke about in the previous video, not only make sure the pressure is perfect and that I'm the cloth, the pattern is coming out perfectly, but I also had to make sure that I was stamping in a straight line because of the nature of the design. I had to make sure that the amount of space, the gaps between each motif, each roll of motif was the perfect perfect amount of space. I'm really not explaining this well, but y'all kind of get the gist of it. But yeah, here we are stamping away. And again, this, well, I didn't say this already, but this one will just be one motif, one design. After we're done stamping, we were gonna dye this, but yeah, we dyed it the same day. but we wanted to kind of fold it to preserve, because again, sometimes the folding, because I didn't want as many cracks in here, so we folded it this way, so then when we dye it, you'll see how we dye it and you'll kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, so and then we created the last dye bath, which I wanted it to be brown. And again, if you watch the previous video, I talked about the fact that we dyed 2 cloth on this day. As you can see, the other cloth I just posted about in there. So this is the cloth that I made, that cloth I'm talking about in this video. And as you can see, the way it's being dyed within the folds, and this is because we don't want as many cracks, versus this one, the dye is kind of moving it around, more carelessly, quote unquote carelessly, because we don't mind having that many cracks here. But the way the other motif, this one right here, yeah, the way it's been dyed, it's a more careful process, because of how we want the pattern to come out the end. Which is why I love batik, because every single step is so unique, and every single step requires like different kind of technique, different way of handling the fabric, depending on the result that you want. After that, as you already know by now, we went right ahead and melted out the wax. And as you can see here, as we're melting out the wax, the pattern is like coming out. You can even see some of like the white parts that didn't really get marbled, which is what I love. I wanted that like imperfect vibe. This is the other textile that I made on the same day. Again, both of the last colors for the textiles were brown, so it makes sense that I worked on both on the same day and the same time. And honestly, I kind of wanted like a uniform, similar but different vibe. After that, rinse the fabric in cold water. You could see some wax on the surface of this water here, and again, we went right ahead and rinsed it. I love this pattern. This pattern is my fave so far. Like, it's actually one of my favorites. And yeah, this would end up looking like.